Hey guys, good morning. And today I want to talk about a book series I've read through, but I also bought the audiobook of. And the funniest thing is, I realized I mispronounced a whole lot of the book and made it so much more confusing than it had to be, which I find funny. And that series is actually this one called Stalking Jack the Ripper. And it's by Kerri Maniscaico, but it was actually a James Patterson present. She's written another series called The Kingdom of the Wicked, which is really good too. But I reread this book so many times. Like, you can see the cover's worn out, whole entire back's going. I've reread it a lot. And this book is all about a girl named Audrey Rose who lives inside of the Victorian area when Jack the Ripper is around. And she is not trying to stalk him, but unfortunately she ends up stalking him because her love interest inside the book actually is into forensic science, and she's actually one of those rare females at that time who were into science, forensic science. So since her uncle is actually the mortician, she actually has the ability to go and do this stuff in secret with her uncle because she does come from a rich family. The Woodsworths are very rich for this time period, and she ends up having to find out, like the back says, he murdered women in cold blood, he terrorized the entire city, he taunted those who hunted him down. But besides all those horrors, in the end, I could not deny I was the girl who loved the Ripper. And it does explain that. I don't want to give away the secret of the book, so if you want to get it, you could actually know the secret. But it does explain why she puts that at the back. And it's all because the Ripper is actually someone very important in her life. I won't say if they're family, friend, or who they are, but they do matter to her. So she does love them in a sense, but she does not know what they're doing until the end. And the reason why I actually like better than some of the reasons Jack the Ripper gave in history, because the reason why for this book is because the Ripper wanted to bring someone back. So he was doing like Frankenstein, taking pieces of other people's bodies. But also, that kind of does explain a lot of the Ripper's cases. Like, why did he take certain organs, but then he sent other ones back to the police? I mean, one, it was to taunt them. But two, what if he had someone he was bringing back? It does actually give you an idea of what if this was happening instead of that. Because history says one thing, but in reality, we never caught the Ripper in any time period. So that means that in reality, it could be any reason. We don't know why he started killing. We've never known. Because I took forensic science for one of my classes, and one of the cases we did talk about was a Ripper. And something that is still commonly believed today is that no one knows why he started killing. What pushed him to that point of killing. But this is only the first one. After that one, you go into the second book, which is Hunting Prince Dracula. And this one actually goes from Victoria and London. You actually go from London to Transylvania in this one, and she goes there with a love interest who actually turns out to be the prince in Transylvania, which I find very cool. Cool that he hid it. And like this one says, a man impaled by a sharp wooden stake, a young chambermaid and drained of all her blood. They say it's Prince Dracula, arise from the dead. I say it's the living, not the dead. We should fear the most. And I mean, it does explain it. There's a lot of also, like, I don't want to call it that. I don't want to call it sexism, but it is, because they really do bring in a lot of the old beliefs at that time that women are too stupid to do forensic science. They should worry more about the home and all this shit. Things like that. So it's not like it's meant to be sexist, but it does bring in like those old ways and the old beliefs, because the one who runs the forensic school in Transylvania honestly does not want Audrey Rose there and really does try to make her life a living hell in this school. Which, at that time, if you were a girl, she got lucky she wasn't called a witch, I'll say that. Because at that time, if you were a girl and you liked science and stuff, a lot of times they would just call you a witch, unfortunately, and it didn't matter what you say. You were imprisoned and no one cared. Even your family would disown you if you were claimed as a witch. So, I guess it depends, but I like the fact it does bring in that, because nowadays you don't hear these old sayings or these old things, but also in reality that's also a good thing and a bad thing. Because it means that kids who are growing up now don't know what those sayings mean, which means they have a chance of saying it later in their life not realizing they're being rude or disrespectful. Unfortunately, But it is good because we got rid of sayings that were very dangerous, that were very rude, disrespectful, racist, all this stuff. But that's the second one. And then the third one, she actually ends up on... The third one is actually Escaping from Houdini. She is on a cruise ship on her way to America. And the last book actually takes place inside Chicago during the World Fair. Back in that time, and I think it's cool that it actually happens during the World Fair. But this one's called Escaping from Houdini, and on the back it says, it was both glorious and terrifying holding someone's life in my hands. Sure and steady it was my scalpel. I had the power to end it with a swift flick of the blade, the power to end him. And it does explain why she suddenly is having to hold a scalpel to someone's neck. But I mean, like, inside this, she starts figuring out who she is. She starts figuring out what she wants. And she and her love interest start building a much stronger relationship to the point where she and him end up together. But they aren't at that point completely. And then the last book is this one, which is called Capturing the Devil. As I said, this takes place in Chicago at the World Fair. And she actually ends up staying at the Murder Hotel, funny enough. And it says on the back, he once said the devil was within him and stayed all his wicked life. No one knows how many lives he's taken, but I'm certain one of our stories will end in hell. And in this, the reason why she says it's capturing, because this one actually takes a lot of H.H. Holmes ideas of his murder hotel and stuff, and that's who she has to capture. That's who they're calling the devil, which... He was called the White Devil for a while inside of America when he was first labeled as a serial killer. Later on, he was put down as just the murder house owner and labeled as a serial killer. But it does make sense if you go looking back into the crime history and see that there were people who were called the devil throughout history that were just serial killers. And yes, they could be devils in reality, but they're long gone, so there's no way to ask them at this point. But I do like the series, but I realized while listening to it, I physically screwed up a lot of the words. Like, for the longest time, I could not understand this book here. And I own them all as audio. Like, when I get to chapter 7 and beyond, it's just from 7 till 10, I would confuse the words to the point I did not understand what I was reading, and I had to constantly look stuff up. So, what I did was I bought the audiobook version and I decided to listen to those specific chapters. Then I realized exactly which words I was screwing up and their meanings to the point I could understand what the hell was happening. But I always think it's funny whenever I listen to the audio now thinking, yep, that's good. That's a word I used to screw up. Yep, that one too. And that's actually why I love audiobooks, because with my disability, I have trouble reading, with math, with writing, and so for me, a lot of these words are hard to read to the point where they can actually pull me out of a book and just make me want to put it down, never pick it up again, because I just can't get past that word, and it upsets me. Just like when I first read Monster High, I physically had a pen, a notebook, and I wrote, and I underlined every single word that I could not say, could not understand, or did not know the meaning of. And I physically wrote them down in that notebook, wrote down the definition, and I physically read those definitions before I continued the book multiple days in a row, just so I could understand what I'm trying to read. But I just thought it was interesting to think about that and know that there was some books that if I did not have the audio, I probably could not get through them. So I think audiobooks will help with that, because they made it to where I could get through the series, and I love that fact. But let me know if there's any series you guys have trouble getting through, if you don't have the audio version, and or let me know how you guys overcome these type of troubles. If you liked, go ahead and like. If you want to comment, go ahead and comment. And if you want, go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 on this channel. So thank you guys, and thank you guys for over 400. Have a good day.